محمد عرف الصواب وفي أبياتهم نزل الكتاب.
رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. الحمد لله مالك الملك مجري الفلك مسخر الرياح فالق الإصباح ديان الدين رب العالمين. الحمد لله على عفوه بعد قدرته والحمد لله على طول أناته في غضبه وهو قادر على ما يريد. ثم الصلاة والسلام على نبينا آية الله العظمى وسيد الأنام أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد، اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد، وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين. السلام عليكم brothers and sisters ورحمة الله وبركاته. It was suggested to me by one of my brothers whom are in Sydney. I sent him my speech and he said, if you can, before you start your speech, explain what you will be talking about. And I really thank him because his advice was very sincere and it was in its place. And tonight I'm hoping to talk about the empty time we have. The Imam refers to it as الفراغ. Now, in order to understand the actual meaning of faragh, we have to understand it in our language, which is English. Empty means it was filled with something and now it's empty. Or it needs to be filled with something. Some people look at empty time as free time. There is no such thing as free time. We don't have free time. All the time that has been given to us has to be filled with something. And before we can narrate the narration of Ahlul Bayt in this matter, I have to explain what the Imam says from the beginning of the narration to the end of the narration. Because it's all linked to this emptiness that we have in time. And this is what I hope I can relay this message to you through the narrations of Ahlul Bayt. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. In this narration, the Imam prepares us so we understand the gravity and the importance of this subject. The Imam refers to greed, collecting. The only thing that you think about is collecting. Your place as a servant in this world to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How not to be like the animals. You will be judged after this world. You have to be prepared because you will be trialed. The reality of this world. To strive to God's will and use empty time in the appropriate manner. And this is the narration. Now, before I start the long narration, I want to say this narration because it's really important. The Imam says, من الفراغ تكون الصبوة. الصبوة, when we say someone is a sabi, it means he's a young child. Okay, الصبوة is someone being childish. So the Imam is saying من الفراغ, from empty time or from boredomness, from someone being bored. Okay, you start to become childish, or you start to want to waste the time you have. It could mean one of each of this translation, either, or it means that it's a sabwa, that you're becoming childish. One of the two. You see, when you are bored, before you waste your time, you're always saying, I am bored. And then you go on to wasting your time. This is the first thing that someone gets to before he starts wasting his time. He's bored. I'm bored, let's go watch a movie. I'm bored, let's go out and hang out in front of 7-Eleven, or you don't have 7-Eleven here, I don't know, like McDonald's or whatever. I'm bored, let's do this. I'm bored, let's wag the class. I'm bored, let's jig. I'm bored. It always starts from when you're what? When you're bored. This is the problem. This is the beginning. When you're bored, you what? You start to do what? Wasting your time. That's when you start it. So what's the key? It's not to get bored. You have to think, how can I not get bored? So we need to what? Think of ways to fulfill our time. To fulfill this voidness that we have. My brother Sarmad, he's told me yesterday that I heard that someone say that it's a shame that someone can be bored or have nothing to do in 2018. And it's true. Alaykum as-salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Tahiyyatuh. It's very true. Because in this day and age, on YouTube, you can learn anything you want. Anything you're into, anything you're interested in, you can learn it through YouTube. If you're interested in medical issues, you can learn it through the internet, through YouTube. It makes it easier when someone is teaching it to you. If you want to learn Arabic, it's the same thing. You can learn it through YouTube. There's no excuse. I get surprised when someone asks me a question. Because you can just ask Google. Just Google and you'll get the question. Yes, maybe it's easier if you just ask the question and get the answer straight away. But usually you can find it on Google. It's not something hard. Information is very easily accessed this day and age. It's not like the olden days. Anyway, then the Imam says, إن يكن الشغل مجهدا فالفراغ مفسدة. If it's hard to work, if there's hardship in working or in being busy, if that is hard, it's the source of corruption when you have what? When you have empty time on your hand. الشباب والفراغ والجدة مفسدة للمرء أي مفسدة. الفراغ, having empty time on your hands. والشباب, being young. والجدة, and having money. مفسدة للمرء أي مفسدة. That's why it's important to remove one of these elements. If you have money, you can't change anything about it. Have money بالعافية عليك, try to spend it in something that is good for you. If you have faragh, take that away from you. Get busy with something. Take it out of this triangle. You can't be old if you choose to, but you can be busy with something. Be busy with something that's useful. عن أبي عبد الله عليه السلام قال إن الله عز وجل يبغض كثرة الفراغ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala hates when someone isn't busy with something. and having a lot of time and empty time on your hands. A lot of people just space out. Even when they're sitting and they have empty time on their hands, they just space out. You look at them, they're not even thinking. Ya akhi, if you don't want to do anything, think about your akhirah at least. Think, and التفكر is ibadah. It's worship. When you're thinking, it's worship. Of course, when you're thinking about things that are useful to you, not when you're thinking about garbage. And the only way you can think about things that are useful to you is when you watch things that are useful to you, when you read things that are useful to you, when you talk about things that are useful to you. That's when you can only think about the useful things. Or else you don't. Because as they say, garbage in, garbage out. Whatever you feed your brain, that's what your brain is going to be thinking about. Whatever you feed your thoughts, that's what your thought is going to be thinking about. That's why it's important to be busy with something useful in your empty time. And we talked about how to divide your time to fall in the previous narration. ورد في الخبر الوقت سيف فإن قطعته وإلا قطعك. That the narration says that time is like a sword. If you don't cut it, it will cut you. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر. By default, we are in loss. By default, we are losers. By default, we don't gain anything. إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات. Except the ones who believe and do good. إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. By default. By default, the human being wants to follow his desires. That's why we try our best to fight them. Fight these desires. Because if we don't fight these desires and we give our desires what they want, what will happen? We'll reach ruin. We won't get anywhere in this world or the next. One of the ways to get rid of boredom and to get rid of empty time is to set goals in our life. When you set a goal in your life, in 5 years' time, I want to reach this goal in my life. I want to learn a new language. My uncle, his name is Adnan, الكاظمي. He's over 70 years old. I saw him once in his diwaniyah. I told him, Uncle, what are you doing these days? He said, I'm learning a new language. He's over 70. He says, I'm learning a new... I go, what language are you learning? He said, I'm learning Persian. And he took out a book and he started reading. The man is learning a new language when he's above 70 years old. Because he has empty time, he wants to fill it with something useful. He wants to learn this language. He's seeing Iran is being popular in the region. He wants to understand them. He wants to understand the Iranians. If you don't understand the language of a group of people, can you understand them? It's impossible. Because learning a language is not only learning the actual words, it's learning a whole culture. Then you start to understand their jokes. You start to understand their mentality. You start to understand how they think. You start to understand their nature, how they work, how they perceive life. He's learning Persian when he's above 70 years old. He blew my mind. When I have empty time, I usually try my best to read some ruwayat, read some Quran, understand more in my religion. But this man, he's learning a new language at this age. Doesn't that motivate us to use our time in better ways when we're young? And the thing is, there's a narration that says when you are young, that's when you can understand knowledge. That's when you can grasp knowledge. Much better than when you are old. النقش عفوا الحفظ في الصغر كالنقش في الحجر والحفظ في الكبر كالخط على الماء أو كالنقش على الرمل or something like that. I can't remember the narration properly. Unfortunately, I didn't write it down. That's what it's like. So while you're young, try your best to learn when you're young. Because whatever you understand and learn when you're young, it stays with you. That's why you see all the old people usually say, my father used to say, my uncle once said. They remember what? The knowledge that they obtained when they were young. Usually when you get old, you don't obtain your knowledge properly like you are when you're young. That's why it's important to write your knowledge down. What you understand, write it down. The knowledge you obtain, try to write it down. Anyway, let's move on. So back to setting a goal. Set a goal in your life. Put forward a list of things you need to do every day, a program, and that way you won't have empty time. When I get up in the morning, I pray Salat Subuh, I brush my teeth, whatever. I go to work, I come back from work, I sit with my family half an hour. Always put your eyes on the time, because time is all what you have is your time, and you'll be asked about it, and you'll be judged by it and what you did with your time. And then say, okay, after that I'm going to read 50 ayat from the Quran. 50 every day, just read 50 from the beginning of the Quran. Read 50. Understand one ayah, more than enough. It'll take you half an hour. After I do this for half an hour, I move on to something else. I learn something else. Always thinking of how to make the most of my time, the most use of my empty time. Alaykum as-salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And this is what's very important, to set your goals, set a program, and follow it. Anything that comes and gets in the way of your program, put it on the side. Someone comes and tells you, look, I have this project I want to do. Tell him, thank you very much, I have my own project. Unless you need to help him and he's in need, that's a different story. Because if you don't have a project for yourself, if you don't have a program for yourself, you'll be part of someone else's program and part of someone else's project. Or you'll be nothing. لا تنفع أحد ولا ينفعك أحد. Just typical loser. So it's your choice. And make the choice now. Not when you go back home you think about it. Right now, I decide to put all my time in good use. All my time. Try my best to put all my time in good use. Always in halal. Always in what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has ordered us to do. Because we want to reach that goal. And the ultimate goal is pleasing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And inshallah, we will start the narration that I started my speech with and explain what the imam is trying to help us understand, so we know what to do with our empty time and understand the gravity and the importance of that. وصلى الله على محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين.